Orgasm is one of the great joys of life, and to take a risk with that is just the Change Podcast. Everything changes, everything stays the same. Hey Jemma.
Hey Shayna.
Welcome everyone back to the Change Podcast. I think this is episode 11 or something like that.
Yeah, he's counting.
We are sort of.
It's starting to get a little bit natural. I'm reflecting, like I don't feel quite as nervous starting these things off as initially. Which is nice.
I wonder how long it's been now. More than a year, probably?
No, still under a year.
Okay.
So my E-Day is the 21st of November. So I'm approaching 11 months.
But maybe more than a year since we started talking.
Oh, potentially. I think we recorded just before I started taking hormones. So it probably was, maybe late October, early November.
Well, anyway, it's good to have you back. And I haven't seen much of you lately, Jem, and I'm not going to see much of you. You've been to Thailand, and what'd you do in Thailand?
I disappeared to do a little spiritual pilgrimage into yoga. I did my yoga teacher training, which was sensational, phenomenal, life-changing, all of the grandiose adjectives I could possibly throw at it. It was truly life-changing, and it's given me a very strong foundation for my practice of yoga and an even stronger passion and love for the practice.
Fantastic. You've always been a hippie at heart, haven't you?
I have, and now it's evolving. Now I have feathers in my hair. So
stylish.
Yes. Progressing into the hippie world. And very excited to start teaching yoga and go down that line. I think we mentioned briefly that I was taking a break from my PhD and reconsidering some life directions. And that whole process is still happening, but I know that I want to teach yoga as part of my future journeys. A little quick rundown.
What is it about yoga specifically? Is it the spiritual side or the physical side or the combination of matter and spirit?
Yeah, it's kind of all of it. I think it's just a really powerful practice for getting back into your body, getting back into the present moment, and increasing your energy. It's hard to, I guess, summarize what it is about it in a sentence. But yeah, practicing for that month, it really, really deepened my awareness of myself, and my love for myself, and gave me so much strength and energy to face life. And also, I mean, I think largely to what interests me is the philosophy underlying it. It's a really beautiful empirical and secular philosophy about, as all of the Eastern contemplative philosophies are, more centered around how can humans best live versus what is the structure of reality really. And yoga is a bit agnostic. It says we can't ever really confirm. We're always stuck within our perspective. So how do we live in the best way? How do we understand ourselves enough to really know what to do and to grow and love and be loved?
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe we can do a comparative study on it. I think a lot of religions are trying to do the same thing and do at their best. Same thing. So
yeah, exactly. I think that is the foundation of our religions, and I'm definitely in the camp of choose your flavor. For me, I like yoga because it's a very self-directed pursuit of spirituality. I don't I don't love like the appeal to a higher power that I don't have any like control over as much. But I'd love to do a comparative episode with you because I can see a lot of similarities and a lot of beauty in all of the religions. And also, I'd love to talk about science and how it's also got its own little religious underpinnings of objectivity and a different pursuit.
Yep. Conversations for another day. Thailand, though, let's just we're going to talk today about the further stage in your transition, but just a brief observation before you went there. You'd planned to go to Bali originally to do your yoga training. Didn't go there. Why not?
I actually applied for a yoga teacher training in Bali, and I got a really lovely message back from the owner of the studio, kindly letting me know that it might be a bit more difficult doing my yoga teacher training in Bali because they're a more Muslim country and therefore are not as LGBT friendly as Thailand. Thailand is really incredible for trans people. I was actually amazed at how I got there. And I'm kind of like, I'm still always carrying this little chip on my shoulder, which is like, are people going to see me for who I am? In Australia, I'm always getting misgendered and always having to like try and show myself to people. And in Thailand, I got there and just from the get-go, no questions, I was just accepted and always gendered correctly. People just looked at me and they said, oh, she's a woman. Of course, we will use female pronouns with her. And I guess it was really amazing because it's so normal in Thai culture to it's just an accepted part of reality that some people are born wanting to be the other gender. And so great, they just go and do that. That's their life. And it was really refreshing and interesting toying with that over there and being like, why aren't we questioning this more? It is true that people have always been born that wanted to be the opposite gender. And so how come in our world we demonized it and in their world they accepted it and now have a really healthy and beautiful trans culture that gets to contribute to their diversity?
Yeah, it's great that you can go to a place, and it's interesting because we tend to think of the pronouns about, making sure that we gender you right but actually it's just about, are you accepted as who you are? And so you can be in a place where that's really obvious because of the way people just respond to you in the everyday. And of course, that is the challenge of being in public in Australia, but then especially traveling, because you're never quite sure when you go to a new culture or a new place how you will or won't be accepted or what sort of reaction you'll get. So I guess that you just have to face that up as part of the adventure.
Yeah, and there are definitely far worse places than Australia for trans discrimination. So blessed to be here, but alas, in the face of these fears, I am going traveling again. I'm leaving today, in fact, this afternoon. We've quickly assembled to record this podcast before I take off for another 2 months. But I'm going to Europe with Mum for 5 weeks. We're going to have our first little mother-daughter trip, which will be really beautiful. I'm very, very excited. Traveling to a bunch of different countries, very active trip. But the interesting additional leg that we've just added to the end of this trip within the last few weeks is I'm going to be returning to Thailand on my way back on the 30th of November and getting sex reassignment surgery.
And obviously that's a huge step, and I guess interesting to note your mum's going to be with you for that as well, so she's extended her stay to support you during that.
Yes, so grateful to her. I really don't know if I could have done it alone. Way too scary.
Yeah, look, there's so many questions, of course, that I think the audience will have, that I had, and we'll do our best to answer some of them now, and maybe if there's others, you can send the questions to me and we could do a follow-up podcast if there's things we didn't get. I guess I'll start by noting a year ago, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on the podcast before, and it's only a year, as you say, and at that point in time, my recollection is that you weren't planning on surgery. You didn't think it was necessary. So how dare you change your mind?
I know, I said it online. Now I can't change my mind.
Maybe another way of saying, of a better way of saying that is why. Why have you changed your mind?
Yeah. It's definitely been something that I've spent a lot of the last year processing. At the time when I said that, for one, it was pre-hormone replacement therapy. So I really was kind of like in this place of having no idea what the journey was going to be like. And trying to like mentally, I guess, subconsciously take things one step at a time, not to be like, have this very laid out path of hormones and then surgery and then this surgery and then, all of that. And I still kind of feel like I think I expressed at the time that I would prefer to get as few surgeries as possible. And I am still in that camp. I want to get as little as possible just to avoid the financial burden and the recovery times. But this is one that, as I've been going through this journey, I've really come to realize is a fundamental part of it for me, and it's always been there. And I think contextually as well, at the time that I was unsure, I was also dealing with heartbreak, and was learning how to love myself with the idea of surgically altering myself still. And I had a bit of trauma around that, so I was I was probably a bit too scared at the time to really process it. But yeah, I've spent the year reflecting and thinking on it, and it's just always like, the emotions of transitioning for me, are that I've always had gender envy. I've always wanted to be a girl, and that includes in sex. I've often had sex wishing that I was in the other position. And while that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy sex, and I enjoyed using my penis because it was there, because it enabled me to have really intimate moments with people, it was always more the intimacy that I enjoyed than the actual act itself, because the act itself brought up these feelings of envy in me that were just confronting and difficult to deal with. And I've been transitioning for a year, and my body's changing in miraculous ways. And so there's also an element of the fact that, whenever I am like going out into public and I'm looking super feminine, I am mentally aware of this, package, this bold lump down there in tight pants, that I don't really resonate with it anymore. And we also spoke in an earlier podcast about how my functionality has changed with hormones. It's just become more difficult to use it anyway. And because of that, I'm feeling less sexually inclined. I want to connect with people. I really want to go out and go on dates and meet people and, explore this new side of myself. But it is there's a huge resistance in me, because I always think, oh, well, where's it going to lead? What if it goes down that route? I don't want to have to deal with this thing.
Yep.
Because it's not only now is it not something that I really want, it's also just more difficult to use. And if it was something that I could, like, if it worked as well as it did before, maybe I'd be more hesitant as well. Taking estrogen is, at least for me, and I know that functionality varies a lot between trans people, but for me, it was the estrogen has really changed my functionality, and I guess I just want to explore the other side.
Yeah. Now, look, we need to at some point, but not immediately, comment about what you can and can't talk about, because this is actually pretty out there talking about bottom surgery. It's not a question you should ask people or talk about. You're doing so precisely because we've had these strange podcasts. And I guess to just normalize talk about the body. But before I go there, I just want to stick in line of where we're going. So over the course of a year, you've actually let's address that first. You want to comment on that, and then I'll
let's do the PC.
Yeah.
Let's do the PC. Obviously, this is a very confronting thing for me to talk about. I really pondered for a good while whether I wanted to do this podcast or if I wanted to just sneak away to Thailand and come back and it's done, and maybe talk about it
or not do the
wild
podcast at all, because it's nobody's business
exactly
what someone's genitals are or aren't.
Yes, and I don't want to encourage inquiring about these things. I don't want to encourage people gossiping about it or it being like a juicy topic. I actually want the opposite. I want to just normalize it and just say, surgery is an option for helping people come to accept themselves in many areas of life. This is a huge area of self-acceptance for me that brings up a lot of dark thoughts. And by having the surgery, I can address those thoughts and then just move forward with my life and just not have them there and deal with whatever else comes. And I really want to, I just want to normalize that process for trans people by talking about it publicly.
So we're having this conversation not to sensationalize what's going on, not because you're trying to say, look, here's my new genitals, or it's...
No, it's quite the opposite. I still have a lot of insecurity about, choosing to go through what society regards as an elective surgery, what I maybe don't consider as elective as some people think.
Yeah.
But it is something that can open me to judgment and discrimination. And
well, let's then talk about. So, in other words, you get the PC thing. Everyone listening to this is
don't ask people about their genders. We've said that before on the podcast.
That's right.
You are not allowed to ask other people about their genders.
So Jen's choosing to discuss this because she would like to, because she's comfortable doing so.
And only because no one else is here.
There you go.
It's a bit easier when you're doing it from the safety of your own home and you've controlled the conversation.
So let me then start to ask some of the more challenging questions that, of course, I've gone through, because it's, like we're sitting at a podcast. And this it's really interesting that for me, weirdly, the surgery has probably been the harder thing to adjust to than just the straight, the initially non-binary, then she, the clothes. So I think if I'm honest with you, the surgery has been the hardest thing to get my head around. I think that there's multiple reasons for that. First, it's fear about losing sexual function. I have lost sexual function as a consequence of a spinal cord injury. And so taking a risk with sexual function to me, so that concerns me, and so I'll get you to speak to that in a second. The second part of my fear is the irreversibility of this. Now I know on the one hand, you're getting a surgery. I guess the surgery can go the other way, but my suspicion is that that the process of going backwards and forwards, this is not like stopping and taking estrogen. It would have much more serious and, of course, expensive consequences to go backwards and forwards. And there's the whole thing of...
I don't think you can go... You definitely can't go forwards. You can... I mean, yeah. Just to quickly, yes, irreversible. Definitely irreversible. I mean, like once it's happened, maybe I could do the same thing as trans men do, which I don't even fully understand myself to say like maybe there's that option there to like recreate an artificial penis, but I really don't think that's possible. I'm getting my testicles removed. They're never coming back.
Yeah.
So yeah, irreversible, definitely. And that's
So
a good thing to talk about.
look, let me then just ask the first question, which is I think the one that I did ask you as soon as you suggested to me you were going through with this is it why so soon? If you've changed your mind within the course of the last year, why not wait and think about it longer, another year or two?
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot to unpack in that. It's interesting how it's interesting how certain conversations that you have make it seem like you've changed your mind temporarily, like chronologically later, because prior to this podcast and prior to talking to you about whether or not I wanted surgery, there are certain people in my history who would not be surprised at all that I'm getting this surgery. There are certain people who I've been very open with about the fact that I have always wanted, if I had a choice, always would have said I wanted a vagina. The uncertainty was only about the surgery, was only about the risks. It was just like, I always knew that I wanted one, but if I can get away with being happy with what I've got, then that's like the ideal in quotation marks, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of the like societal.
Because you don't have to go through a surgery, you don't have to
Yeah.
have that expense, you don't have to take the risk.
And it is a truly terrifying surgery. You're right. It is. It's scary. There's a lot of fear. And I think that this changing my mind process, if we can refer to it as that, has actually just been me reconciling that fear. It hasn't been about me going, oh, I don't want a vagina, and now I suddenly do. It's been me going, I want a vagina, but I don't think I want that surgery. And plus I also have this trauma of not feeling like I can be loved if I don't have a penis. And then processing both of those things to come to, it really started like hitting me, I think, like it's been something I've been processing the whole time, but it's been hitting me as more like this inescapable thing that I know that I want, for probably the last like 6 months, especially as I started to like use my penis again, and just like since I've started accepting myself in so many ways, then I don't, and you know, I'm not playing these mental games anymore. It became really clear the mental games that I was playing before to be happy with having a penis, and I was like, well, do I need to play these games anymore? And so then I start toying with the reality of surgery, and to get through that, did a lot of research on Reddit, watching trans people on YouTube, and speaking to a friend of mine who has had the surgery. And yeah, I think that changing my mind process was just really coming to terms with the risks and what the expected outcomes are. And
well, let's come to those in a second, but still, why not wait one more year just to make sure?
Yeah, this is a good point. I can't tell you how torturous it is living with these thoughts all the time. Like I'm a 27-year-old adult. I really just want to get on with my life. I just want to be myself. I just want to think about what I want to do with my career. I want to think about interesting philosophical questions. I want to, you know, like help people. I want to spend my mental energy on building my life. And at the moment, it's like so in the forefront of my mind, always like this questioning process, like, you know, knowing I want it, and then the doubt, which is just the natural human response to risk is like the doubt then comes back in, and then I got to process the doubt, and then the doubt comes back in, and then I got to process the doubt. And oh my God, it's just exhausting.
So it's the circularity of going through this same process. Why extend that for a year?
Yeah.
And why defer moving forward in life?
Exactly. And there's a lot of things too. There's benefits to doing it earlier because I'm still in my like transitional puberty. And I'm having issues with blocking my testosterone.
Yeah.
And I'm needing to take super high doses of estrogen to do that, which is risky. So by getting rid of my testicles, I'll stop producing testosterone. I won't need to take testosterone blockers. I can just then have estrogen as the primary sexual hormone in me. Then I've also I'm also on a break from my PhD. So like timing wise, this is the perfect time for me to do it. I'm already going to be traveling with mum. So we get to save one flight. I'll definitely have my mum there with me, which I need. And it's going to be like a 3-month minimum recovery process until I can like start exercising again. So, if I can just get it out of the way, it's out of my mind. I'm just one of those people that I hate having to ponder unanswerable questions forever. I would actually rather just deal with the consequences of having picked a side.
Yeah.
At least then I can move forward.
But how do you know you won't regret it?
I don't. And I don't mind. I really truly. I'm very, very confident that I won't regret it. The reason why I say I don't know that I won't regret it is because there's a million possible things that could happen, but I have a lot of faith that the surgery will go well and that it will be what I want.
Let's talk about that then, the risks, because I think for me and for others who love you, the risks are worrying. I mean, the first thing is, here we are in a wealthy country, and I don't know enough, so I don't want to disrespect Thailand's medical system, but why are you going to Thailand? Why go out of Australia to Thailand to do this surgery?
I know, it seems like a dubious decision.
It is cheaper, obviously.
Yes, so it's cheaper.
But that's not
the
smartest reason.
That's not the incentive. No, I did spend a lot of time researching surgeons and methods. So yeah, I mean, to start with, you need to pick a good surgeon who has experience with doing this surgery. And in Australia, we're quite lacking in that regard. We do have surgeons that do it, but they're like, you got to really dig for them to find them online. They're just not spoken about as some of the best people in the world are really commonly spoke about. And there are some celebrity figures in the world of SRS, bottom surgery, and most of those surgery, are Thailand surgeons. Yeah, sex reassignment surgery.
And that's because Thailand has a history and culture of acceptance, and this is so much a part of.
Thailand has a huge trans community. They've been doing the surgery there for so many years. They were kind of like they have been the spearhead of all of the new techniques and the best ways to do it. And then adding to that is that because it's cheaper, because so many trans people come to do it, and not even just that, they have a huge plastic surgery, I don't know what you call it, system over there, because so many tourists travel to Thailand to get plastic surgery. Their plastic surgery infrastructure institutions are incredibly well funded.
It's the irony of Western privilege.
We've given it to them in specific areas.
Well,
right?
But you can afford to do surgery. We can afford to do things and have opportunities that others don't, and we won't go there for now. But all right, let me then. So look, I think to me, I can say, okay, if you're going to have this surgery, Thailand seems smart. I can see that. But my God, it still seems like a risk. So
yeah, it definitely is. And it'd be nice.
What's the chance of won't you lose your sexual function? What's the chance that you'll be able to orgasm again? My God, it's one of the joys of life. People in purity culture, they teach young people not to masturbate, and it's the biggest evil because orgasm is one of the great joys of life. And to take a risk with that, I think
that needs to be our intro caption for this episode. Orgasms are one of the great joys of life. It's true. It's definitely true. And if this was a surgery that had a really high risk of losing that ability, a lot less people would do it. Um, so there is a risk, obviously. You are playing with people's, genital nerves. And there is part of the risks are loss of ability to orgasm or loss of sensation. However, the risks of those are quite low. Um, the surgeon that I have selected, I've been in touch with his care team, and the care team is amazing. As another reason why I feel confident going over there, because they've just been like in touch with me the whole time, like 24/7, available to talk and help me process. And they're going to look after me for a whole month after the surgery while I'm there. And yeah, they haven't had a single person in the time that they've been working with this surgeon who hasn't been able to orgasm. And it's more common that people report being able to have multiple orgasms after the surgery. But yeah, I'm also personally a little bit like, um, I don't want to like glorify it, because it is a surgical intervention, playing with nerves, and risks can happen. And also, there's it's not like we're regrowing nerves. It's not going to be the same as a cis vagina. So already knowing that it won't feel the same, like already accepting that there will be like, it'll be different. It'll be
A
its
trans
own
vagina.
thing.
Or
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm calling it a designer vagina.
A designer vagina. Okay.
It'll be my own
Designer vagina.
perfectly designed
The
vagina.
words I never thought I'd say. Yeah. Okay.
And
So I mean, basically, so in response to the big fear that most of us have, it's the surprise that that you actually don't lose sexual joy in that way.
it's truly miraculous that we can do this surgery. And the crazy thing too is like, so obviously the vaginal cavity is entirely artificial, and there are different methods that they use for creating the lining of that. So I guess just to quickly give people some information, you have penile inversion, which is the most commonly discussed one, where they use your penile shaft skin to invert, to line the inside of the cavity. And then they use like in all cases, they'll use the knob of your penis, the most sensitive area, to create a clitoris. And then they'll use like, your scrotal skin, which is also more sensitive, to create lips and vaginal, like the outer and inner labia. And so you are creating, like, you're reusing the sensors that are already there to reshape them into new places. But
it does make me cringe a little bit. It's just the idea of the pain of it. But anyway,
yeah, it's going to be really painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like obviously with a woman, the clitoris is not just the surface thing. It also curves, forks off backwards, which is why they have like a G spot inside.
Yeah.
So I won't have a G spot. More than likely, I think there's some cases where people get like really fine points of sensation. I think it can also stimulate your prostate somehow, because it's close to that area. But the interesting thing is, you wouldn't expect there to be much sensation in a cavity that's been fabricated. But people say it feels amazing. And I think, in a lot of ways, that's when you feel like you should be the one being penetrated and you finally are, when you have that craving, like, of course it's going to feel good. And so, as long as the hole's there, then there will be sensation.
I mean, it can't just, this is a weird conversation for a parent to have with a child. But anyway, it can't just be about penetration, because obviously there's other ways. I mean, gay sex doesn't involve, say, anal sex, whether hetero or... So you can experience that in other ways. So it's not
Oh,
just
yeah,
about the
yeah.
penetration. It's about the whole person, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also about whether you like anal penetration or not, how much you want to
Yeah.
do that all the time.
And let's not
Because,
go into that conversation for a
yeah.
family podcast. Not that this is a family podcast anymore. We're going to put an over 18 rating on this podcast, probably, don't we?
This one's juicy. But sorry, yeah. So I also need to finish the other two methods really briefly.
Okay,
So there's the penile inversion using the penile shaft to do it. The problem with that being that the inner lining doesn't feel as real reportedly as the inside of a normal vagina. It's also not self-lubricating. And the depth is limited by how much shaft skin you have.
Yeah.
So that's just another limitation of that technique that people consider. Then you can then the next technique that came out after that was the colonoscopy. So they actually use some like a skin graft from the inside of your colon to create the inner cavity.
That wouldn't have any sensation though, because we don't feel in our colon, do we?
So I don't know.
Okay.
Apparently there is.
Okay.
Like, yeah, because I mean, it's not like we're completely, we don't feel in our colon, but we, there's probably other sensations there.
Yeah.
It's pressing on something, but,
Yeah.
but yeah, so with that technique, it creates a more realistic feeling, vaginal lining, and it's more self-lubricating, although the outcomes of that vary. It's not like necessarily wet self-lubricating from arousal. It's just kind of like always lubricated a bit, which can be helpful. However, with that method, you've also got to like fast for a lot beforehand, really clean your colon to avoid the risk of this colon smell lingering. But again, this is just risks that they discuss. This is actually, it's a really uncommon outcome again of getting colonoscopy, that it would smell like a colon, but just the risk is there. And then the most recent technique, which is the one that I am electing to go for, is the peritoneal pull-through method, similar to the colonoscopy, except they use your peritoneal lining, which is your abdominal lining. The reason why I was like more inclined towards that is because, for one, I don't have to fast, but also I think I would rather keep my colon lining intact than my peritoneum lining, because it's kind of like, it's just holding things there. It doesn't really do all that much else, and it will regrow. And yeah, those are the techniques.
And they say that
that's the one I'm doing.
You'll be able to have sensation with that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
The details of the surgery are beyond this podcast. This is not a medical team. Suffice to say, there's different ways of doing it, and the results are generally. So you have, with respect to your risk mitigation for those who are concerned, have you really thoroughly investigated this? Not just relying on the surgeons. You've used the woeful internet for discovering some information and talked to people who've had the surgery. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've done some deep diving, and because obviously initially I was just terrified of it, and so I really made sure that I like confronted everything, and I've had many different experiences of addressing it and trying to sat in visualization and really trying to like imagine the sensations and what that's going to be like, and see how it sits with me, and also toying with like really going into like, okay, what if I do lose sensation? What if I do lose the ability to have sex? What if all of these things? And my answer is just like, what if I spend the rest of my life with a penis that I don't want, that is also not functioning like I want it to, and I still don't enjoy having sex anyway? So yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's what ifs in both directions. But
every step in life. I can't remember the Bilbo Baggins quote, but life is a journey. You've got to take your foot outside the front door. Who knows where it will lead? There's risks in whichever direction you head. Strangely, there's risks in not taking a step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So,
And for me, I think my curiosity wins. I feel, yeah, I'm really excited to have this journey and have it as a foundational part of my life and to explore the other side. And it's something that's always been there. So I'm just choosing to follow it.
all right. Well, I guess that will be 5 weeks time. So it's on the 30th of November, the surgery, is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll spend a few weeks recovering in Thailand, back in Sydney in time for Christmas.
Yeah.
Is there anything else
Just in
about
time
this
for
journey?
Christmas.
Or obviously, I said if people do have questions, you can fire them at us. We won't be able to answer for a couple of months because Jem won't be here. We may be able to answer on the feed or something. Who knows? We may find a way, or we may do a podcast when you get back. Anything else before we go that you would like to address?
Yeah, I'd love to address. I guess there's this like interesting implication with getting SRS that I've come across, where people say that you're not a woman until you've had surgery, until you have a vagina. And I actually had a very direct experience of this in Thailand with another traveler, like an older man. I was just I went to a club that was playing psytrance music just to like have a dance by myself one night, and I was just like really enjoying myself and dancing around. And yeah, this couple was just like staring at me. I think they were trying to work out like, is this a woman or a man? Because
So
that's
even
like
in Thailand, you
the
can get those
most
experiences.
Yeah, but these people aren't Thai. These people are travelers. They're bringing their toxicity.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, the most important question a person can ask is, are you a man or a woman? And these people were really staring me down, and I just wasn't letting it faze me. And then they came up and they had a quick chat to me, just asked me who I was, kind of thing, and then just walked away. And so I was like, oh, well, okay, cool. They got their answer. They realized I'm trans. And then still just whatever, just water off a duck's back, not caring about it because I'm dancing and I'm feeling good about myself. And then the guy comes back a bit later and he asked me if I've had surgery. And
again, you can't answer. You can't. That's not a question you ask a stranger.
Yeah, no. But I'm in this position of I'm actually feeling really good about myself at the time. And in this place of not caring what random travelers think. And I'd already decided that I was going to get the surgery. So I just decided to play with it instead of being offended and just went, not yet. And then he started going, oh, well, you should get it done in Thailand. They like in Bangkok, they have all these amazing surgeons there. And you're not a real woman until you've had surgery. And that was a huge flag for me. I was like, whoa, excuse me. Just because I want to have surgery doesn't mean I'm not a woman unless I don't. And so I guess it does bring up a big discussion of like, where is the line? Where is the line between man and woman? And I think that I think we've probably covered this in just randomly throughout many podcasts. But I think wherever you draw the line is always going to be exclusive and also unwantingly inclusive of certain people. And it's always arbitrary. And I think in terms of, woman or man, why am I a woman suddenly just because I've had a surgery and now I have a vagina? It's changed one part of my body.
So your point is you're not getting this surgery to become a woman.
No.
You're getting this surgery because you want the surgery and it will
I'm getting
make
this
you feel more comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah, because it will help me be myself. It won't help me be a woman. It will help me be myself. And I identify as a woman socially, as a gender role. Yeah, so I'm already a woman.
We what was the song we heard the other day that we decided was your song? It was Carole King and sung by.
Um,
We'll have to come back to it. We'll put it on the end of this music for credits. Hey, Jem, I reckon that's it for today. I really pray and hope and long and for the surgery to go stunningly well. And I know you'll have a great holiday with Mum. Look after her as she does you.
I will. Yes, thank you for your well wishes. Very excited to see what happens. Very scared about the initial few months of recovery. So if people can please send their love and prayers and thoughts and energies of healing my way, it would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I guess we can catch up on the other side.
Peace.
Bye for now.
The Change Podcast. Everything changes, everything stays the same.